So what we have in the shop today is an MGA 1600 that was brought in for what was described as a high-speed miss. Let's take a quick little test drive in it and see what's actually going on. So I actually already had this thing running and wasn't originally going to do a video on it, but then I decided maybe we should. So it starts pretty easily without even choke, so we know it's running a little on the rich side. I've already checked, one of the carburetors is lean and the other one's pretty rich. But let's take it down the road real quick and see. Hopefully this camera mount will be steady enough. I don't want to make you guys seasick or anything, but I have been struggling with that. Right away, the transmission doesn't sound the greatest. We're about 2,500. So it's not just missing at high speeds, it's missing at and carrying on at anything over, say, 2,500 and half throttle. So got a little bit of work to do on this thing. Reverse don't sound so great either. Yeah, front shocks are shot on it too. It's pretty good actually, up to about 3,000 RPMs. And I would assume it probably gets a little bit better as it warms up, but it's not good. So the story on this car, as I understand it, is the owner had actually owned it for quite a long time, and it sat for 40 years in his barn. And he ended up selling it to a friend of his who restored it. And after he restored it, he ended up buying it back off the guy, and they've just been trying to get it actually running right and reliable and staying cool and everything like that. He had actually given the carburetors to another guy here locally who rebuilt them, went through them. He only does bench work. He doesn't work on cars anymore. And then he put them on, and he took it to another guy and actually had him do a little tuning on it. And he said after it was running a little bit rough, he said, well, as long as it starts easy and seems to be running well enough, don't mess with it. Now, a lot of what we're dealing with is probably in the ignition system. The initial thing I thought of was the timing was bouncing around an awful lot up at the high end and probably needs a distributor rebuild, and that's where I was starting at, but it runs worse than I thought it did based on what he told me. Now, I already checked, like I said, the carburetors, and the one's running lean, the other one's running rich. I haven't checked airflow. So we'll start with all the basics. Like I always say, basics, basics, basics. Valve train's kind of noisy. We'll check, make sure they're not just all really loose. Get them all, make sure they're good. I'll maybe run a compression check on it. Get the air cleaners off. Check float heights on both of them, make sure they're the same. Check the jet heights, check the airflow, and try to get them evened out. And then I'll get it up in the air and we'll throw the timing light on it and see where the timing's at. Make sure it's not bouncing all over the place and out of control. Now, he did tell me when they restored this thing, the engine was taken apart. They honed the cylinders, put new rings in it, I guess bearings and gaskets, but it wasn't really a full-on proper rebuild with an overbore or anything. The car is actually only showing 55,000 miles on it, so it might not have had that much wear in it. But we'll just run the compression check. Will give us a little bit more of an idea of what's really going on there and how tunable it truly is. All right, so compression is actually very even across the board. 105, 105, 110, 105. Pretty low though. Probably got a lot of cylinder to wall clearance and some big ring gaps in it. So the compression's not where we'd like to see it, which means it's not going to run overly efficiently. No matter how we adjust it, it's going to always smell like it's running rich. But we should be able to get running a whole lot better than what it's currently running. Looking at the spark plugs, the front two cylinders obviously running really rich. And rear two cylinders obviously not running rich. So on to the carbs. So I am just letting the engine cool off just a little bit more before I actually do the valves. So once I get the air cleaners off, then we'll actually check the valves first too, because if they're super loose and not opening all the way, that will lead to low compression numbers. So if it is really loose, then we'll run compression check again, see if the numbers come up. So after running through valve adjustment here, I do have some concerns. I do know that they said they did not replace the cam in this thing, and I don't think they replaced the followers either. And whoever did the machine work for them told them since they didn't replace the cam or lifters, they could just run like a 1030 with or 1040 with some zinc additive and it'll be fine. Okay. We did have a couple of these that were just a little on the tight side. Quite a few of them that were loose, but two of them in particular were like 30 thousandths or more. 40 thousandths, like number one exhaust, and I think it was number three exhaust. Or no, not number three, it was this one here. Number two exhaust were extremely loose, and we're almost to the bottom of the adjustment here, which makes me a little bit worried about the cam, but we'll keep on trucking. All right, well, no appreciable difference. Number two came up to 110, so 5 pounds. The rest of them read the same. So I guess now actually onto the carbs. So as I was taking things apart and taking the overflow tubes off of here, I noticed at least the front one was sitting in a position where it's going to drop right in front of the exhaust pipe, which is not a great place to have it. So I'll probably tweak these a little bit so they're sitting in a better position. But also they were using copper brake washers, both top and bottom on these. Now originally we used aluminum washer on top. Copper probably still going to work just fine. But for the bottom one, you don't want to use those. This is what's supposed to be on there. They're actually a fiber washer. They're going to do a much better job sealing with the amount of pressure that you're going to put on tightening these up. Plus, these three slots here are very important. The whole point of that is when it's around here, it gives openings for the fuel when it comes out of here through those two slots, a place to go so it gets up in here and goes out the overflow like it's supposed to. If you throw something like this on there, then the only space you have is whatever clearance there is between here, and that's not much, so it's not going to actually overflow like it's supposed to. So we're going to go ahead and put the right stuff on here, as well as fishing this back around like it's supposed to be and adjusting these a little bit. Now these guys had actually told me they were recommended that there's local gas stations around here that have fuel that is non-ethanol and is a little higher octane rating, and that's actually not a bad thing. We don't need The extra octane rating on this is a pretty low compression engine. I think that stuff's like 98 octane. But the non-ethanol is a pretty good idea because ethanol absorbs moisture. And if you're not using your car a lot, sitting over the winter and stuff, you can get rust in your fuel tank from the moisture. So that's not a bad idea at all if it's available to you. Now, the other thing they were told was to use 3-in-1 oil or automatic transmission fluid in the dash pots. I don't subscribe to that theory myself. That is old school thinking. I heard that a lot when I first got into playing with British cars. Problem with those is that oil is kind of on the lightweight side. I always use 20-50, same thing I put in the engines. And you can also use 80-90. Actually, John Twist recommends 80-90 due to wear and stuff, but if you actually look at a viscosity table, 20-50 motor oil and 80-90 gear oil overlap about 80% of the viscosity table, the ratings. So they're not that much different. It's a completely different way of rating them, but they're almost exactly the same effective weight. So you can actually use either one. So now since I have gone over the carburetors, I went ahead and verified that it does have number 6 needles in it, which is standard for a 1600. They're all sitting the right height, flow heights have been checked, all this stuff looks good now. And then I decided now to start looking at the ignition, which is where I mostly think that that's where our problem is, but I want to verify everything else first after talking to them and knowing a little bit about what's going on with the car. But I checked the points gap, cleaned them, and the gap was like 40 thousandths. So that there in itself was probably what the problem actually was, why it wouldn't run so well. But I got it reset now to about 15 thousandths where it should be. And now I can start it up and see what it looks like, what everything's doing, check the airflow through the carburetors, get them all balanced, adjust the richness on them so they're the same. And then unfortunately right now, can't go drive it because it is now raining. So I went ahead and got started, balanced the carburetors out, and got the mixture about the same on both. So now I'm going to check the timing. Now to do these things, you got to be up underneath the car because it's right straight under the bottom, which means you can't rev it up. And the biggest thing I'm wanting to do here is find out what the timing is actually doing as the RPM rises. Basically, how much is it advancing, and is it bouncing around a lot? How consistent is the timing? So what I ended up doing was I had it on top dead center, number 1 cylinder, mark lined up at the bottom, and I come up through here and took a marker on a stick, went down there and made a mark on the side of the pulley and the timing cover. And I'm not going to say that is accurate enough to actually time the car from, but it will give me a basic idea of where we're at and if the timing is going all over the place or if we have, very little advance. So since these are positive ground, I go ahead and just hook these up to a jump box, negative ground like it's supposed to be. So now we got it started here. And we'll see what we got here for timing. As soon as I get on the right setting here. So on my marks here, it's showing about 0 degrees timing. Like I said, I'm not going to trust my marks here for actually timing it. Well, my advance isn't working, but the timing is bouncing all over the place. Just at that RPM, probably a 20-degree bounce at least. I'm gonna go see if I got another distributor I can put in here just to see what it does. So I pulled the distributor out and was going to throw in another one I had sitting here that was from a 66B that I thought was good but wasn't really sure. Got to looking at it really closely and the condenser wasn't tight. The screw was in it, but it wasn't actually tightened down, so it was moving around, which would be getting an intermittent ground. So I put it back in and it's not missing accelerating here. Now I'm going to go ahead and just set the timing proper and wait for the weather to cooperate so I can actually go drive it. So here we are the next day. It's no longer raining. I went ahead and checked the timing, got it set for about 7 or 8 degrees initial timing, which is where it should be on this car. And I went ahead and put a little bit of oil in the front shocks to see what would happen, because they were bone dry and I couldn't stand driving it like that. But I still think it's only going to do a limited amount of good, because I think they were run long enough dry that they're probably just flat wore out. So let's go ahead and take a quick test drive in it and see if it actually pulls and runs better. So I've still got the tweak on the choke and all that stuff, get it all where it's really happy. Right now we're just looking how well does it run going down the road. Oh, that transmission sounds terrible. Well, it settled the front end down a hair. Not bouncing as bad, but it sure runs a whole lot better than it did before. I'm not so sure how well it's charging. Of course, that's not why he brought it over, so I still might check that though. But I don't think he's driven this thing very far yet, and if he knows if it's charging or not. He's got an ammeter here and it doesn't want to move off of 0. Oh, yeah. Unsync first, remember that, dummy. No, don't drive enough, these are. Ugh.